Good morning, Lionhearts. How are you guys today? It's your old pal Jordan the Lion. It's Sunday here in Los Angeles, and I'm going to get out of the house today. I'm looking forward to it. Jaw didn't come home last night. He ended up hanging out at Pollyanna's house because they want to take Jaw to the park this morning before I leave. So we just agreed that he would spend the night there. So when Michael gets here, he actually offered the other day, he's like, do you want to come hang out at my house on Sunday? And I was like, sure. He goes, I have a little bit of work to do in the yard, but it's in the shade and you can stay in there and keep me company. And I just wanted to get out of the house. I just wanted to hang out with Michael. And then it dawned on me, I'm like, well, I got to vlog something. So let me look into what maybe I can vlog in Topanga Canyon. And boy, did I uncover a lot. I went from knowing there was a history there and thinking, like, what am I going to do, to having like 6 or 7 different things that I wanted to vlog. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask him if he'll maybe take me to 1 or 2 of them. I'll show you one of them today, and then I'll save one of them for, over this next 2 weeks, because I'm going to be, kind of at a disadvantage of getting around the city. So, which, as I was watching the Grateful Dead documentaries last night, I brainstormed and started writing down a bunch of things that I wanted to vlog that I thought I could either do from the train or by walking, and I filled a whole sheet of things. So I'm not worried about what I'm going to vlog. I actually have tons of ideas, so now I'm feeling pretty cool about it. It's just getting there. So this should be a great, even though I can't drive 2 weeks, it's going to be a pretty great 2 weeks worth of vlogging. So Michael's going to come pick me up. He's going to help me tape up my broken windshield, or my broken window. Like he said, he's like, you're lucky it wasn't one of the main windows, like your front or your back. So I just didn't feel comfortable in the state that it was in taping it up myself, because I really don't want to use the hand that I just had surgery on to mess around with broken glass. So I know I probably shouldn't be asking him either, but he said he would help me tape it up when he got here, and then we'll go pick up Jaw. We'll head off to Topanga Canyon, and hopefully what I'll be showing you today, well, I don't want to say it until we get there, but it's from one of my favorite albums of all time. The album was written there, recorded there, and it's one of my favorite musicians of all time. Daze with Jordan the Lion begins now. Well, Michael's out here helping me take a look at my car, and we're looking at the broken glass inside and everything. Try and fix it with some cardboard or something. Well, we're heading out to Topanga Canyon. We're almost here. We got to stop at the hardware store, and this guy is super excited to get to see Michael, and he's going to get to see the kitties. Jaw, are you going to see the kitty cats? Alright, we had to stop at the hardware store. Then we're going to head off to what we're going to vlog today. And we're going to make a few stops, so I don't know which one you guys are going to get yet, but I'm looking forward to each and every one of them. Alright, Michael's bringing us to get some food here at the barbecue place. Look who signed it. Mr. Dickey himself. And then they got old President Reagan there. As you can tell, it was awesome. I had the brisket and the pulled pork, and he had the pork ribs and I believe the brisket also. Really good, man. Try out Dickey's. Well, today's vlog is going to be quite unique, because as I came up here to hang out with Michael, I told him there was some vlogging I wanted to do, and when I showed him the address to one of them, he said, well, I think that's within a walk from my house. So I've been walking up here, and this is so fascinating, because what we're going to see today, or what we're going to try and see, is we're going to the house that Neil Young moved into when he wrote After the Gold Rush.
He wrote the album here, recorded it in the basement, and the album became a calling card for the feel of the Topanga Canyon in 1969. See, in 1969, Neil Young had quit Buffalo Springfield because he was tired of living that Sunset Strip life. He also quit, at least for a time, Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, because he was tired of that slick overdub sound that he felt that they were just taking over. He didn't want it. So he used his $17,000 advance for a solo record, bought this house up here in Topanga Canyon, and then moved up here. The problem was he was suffering from writer's block. Every morning Neil would start his day by walking out his front door onto the deck, overlooking the mountains of the Topanga Canyon, and the highlight of his day would be that breakfast. He would always go to the Country Kitchen Cafe and he would enjoy breakfast with the locals. He ended up falling in love with one of those locals, and she was actually his waitress. They fell in love and they got married while he lived here. Now, what's pretty interesting is that she went on to introduce him to a lot of area artists. Ronald Deal, Dean Stockwell, an actor, and through them, they would help Neil discover the beauty of Topanga Canyon. And they actually, Dean Stockwell, approached Neil about writing a soundtrack to a movie that he had written. And the synopsis of this movie was actually going to be kind of an apocalyptic flood that wipes away Topanga Canyon. And so Neil would start out using that as his blueprint for his next album, which would become After the Gold Rush, and it would have all been started from basically being asked to create the soundtrack. Now, Neil absolutely loved it up here, and one of the unique things that he decided to do was he had already tried to kind of work on recording this album at Sunset Sound, and it wasn't working because his guitar player was pretty noticeably falling into heroin addiction. So when Neil moved up here, he started kind of recasting the group, and one of the people that he would ask to join, because what he wanted to do with After the Gold Rush was, originally he thought this soundtrack would be better for something like Crazy Horse, and it was going to be a Crazy Horse project. So he had met a 17-year-old Nils Lofgren in Washington, D.C. after a show, kept his number, and when he decided to put together this new band, he invites Nils Lofgren to come out here, but he says, I don't want you to play guitar, I want you to play piano. And Nils says, well, I'm not a really great piano player, and he said, that's okay, that's what I want. He wanted the basics. So the band would come up here. Neil would, for the most part, write the songs that day. The band would be recording parts upstairs or downstairs, and whatever the case would be. Usually the studio was downstairs, and Neil would go up to the ground floor, write the music, and they said that this was a pretty tumultuous time for the band, actually, because the pianist that was not Nils was a huge fan of Neil, but at the same rate, they said he could spend one moment singing Neil's praises while the next moment cussing him out and telling him he'll never record another thing for him. So they worked on this album at this house we're about to walk up and see. It became basically the quintessential storybook for what Neil's entire career would be. All three forms of music that he would eventually make throughout the rest of his life would all be on this album. Some of the best songs that I've ever heard, Tell Me Why, Southern Man, Cripple Creek Ferry, they were all recorded here. Now, they lived here for about a year. The marriage started to fall apart, and Neil said that he was getting too many hanger-ons, people that he didn't know, that were coming up, hanging out at the house, racking up his phone bill, spending his money, and the only way to get rid of him, he felt like, was to move away. Now this big redwood house up here on top of the hill is the house. He bought this for $17,000, and he said that when he finished recording the album, he came out here into the carport and he stood, and the music played throughout the house, echoing through the halls and out the front door, and the wind blew, and he said, I just felt like I did it. I made the perfect album. And he said it felt so effortless that he almost couldn't believe that it's going to be any good. He actually thought maybe it wasn't any good. And one of the things that was really great about that album is that he decided when he recorded this to leave the overbleed of the kids playing and the dogs barking. He decided to leave that in. And he said that he felt that was part of the art, that capturing the ambiance in the moment was more important than the perfection. So this would have been Neil Young's house, where he recorded and wrote after the gold rush. And this is where he would have listened to it in this carport and realized it was genius. After the gold rush pretty much ushered in the 1970s, and when it came out, a lot of the reviewers actually gave it pretty bad reviews and said that it was an obvious piece of work that had been recorded very quickly and hastily without much thought. And mainly what their complaints were with the vocal sound, which would become Neil's trademark sound. And there's even the recording studio still exists here. And it even looks like there's a recording console of some sort, like a mixer or something right up there. What a historic house. Sorry about the glare, guys. I couldn't help it. This is without a doubt my favorite piece of Neil Young music. All the way down to the cover of the album. Like when that album cover was chosen, it was chosen by Neil himself, and the photographer thought it was a throwaway take. But Neil was looking for something specific at that point in his life, and there was an artistic statement that needed to be made. Living here was the only place that brought it out of him. And that right there, man, that's where the magic happened. If you don't know that album, just go to YouTube, type in After the Gold Rush, hit play, close your eyes and enjoy it, because it's truly one of the most beautiful, harmonious masterpieces in the rock and roll language. And even if you don't like his voice, which I know some people have always been turned off by his voice, I think even those people can enjoy this music. After the Gold Rush. Michael's down there working. I'm relegated to hanging out, which I'm not complaining about. I got a great view. And I mean, we're so close now to where Neil Young lived. I mean, it was 2 or 3 minute walk up a hill. So this is pretty much what he would have been looking at all those times. Not bad. I think I'm gonna have a seat and lay around in this for a little bit. They started growing a lemon tree out here. Michael's trying to lure me into trying out this hammock, but as soon as I got in it, a couple of the threads broke up here, so I don't know if that's a good idea. He's down in here. You guys can see him in there.
Welcome.
There, now you're in focus.
I'm in focus, yeah.
He's digging around.
Yep.
Digging deeper holes and pipes. And now he's got a helper right here. This guy. Stay away from the beer jaw. I come over here, I'm like, Michael's hard at work, and then I look and he's on his phone.
Yeah.
In the trenches, working like a man.
Researching.
On a cell phone. With jaw up here. I think I want to go up here and sit on this big side of the rock. We used to use all these staircases to get up there, but Christina turned it into kind of like a place for all the flower and pottery and everything, so I think I have to walk on this side of the rock and I'll climb up there and sit up there. We'll get a view of the sky. This is a little bit safer. Not bad. Not a bad view, right guys? Michael's out there rerouting the pipes for his propane tank. They're gonna like relay some propane lines or something here this week, and so he was just digging out these trenches. And while he was out there, I was going like, man, it's like this kind of stuff about vlogging that I love. Like, I was just sitting there, I'm like, I'm thinking of all the songs on that album. And he goes, well, why don't you put it on your phone and play it? And we're listening to it, and we're like, Only Love Can Break Your Heart came on, and I was like, man, this was like one of those songs that like made the album for me. And it's, to me, it's one of the best songs ever written. And when that song came on, he immediately stopped and he's like, oh yeah, I know this song's great. And I was like, it's a sign of a truly great album when somebody will stop what they're doing to take in that moment of it. It was so cool. Like I said, you guys got to check this album out if you've never heard it. That is darn good advice. Well, I started my time lapse before this fog front really got moving, but look at it now. It's taken over everything. Seems to be a daily thing, Michael said. This is the way that Neil Young would have taken to go have his breakfast every morning. All right, what a great day. It was just nice to get out of my neighborhood for the first time in like a week and really get out to some nature, see some open skies, and imagine my surprise when we looked up that address and found how close it was to where we were. And then I got to see one of my top 10 favorite albums, where it was created, written, recorded, lived out, relationship was started and ended there. Man, it was awesome. I truly had an amazing thrill getting to see that house today. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I wanted to thank my newest Patreon, Rosie Higgins, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. I hope you have a great night, and from your old pal Jordan the Lion, your old pal on the floor Jaw, Hollywood, California, good night.